I've asked this question of people for decades, and I think there's only one thing that transcends every border and all around the world, and it's not religion, it's not, you know, soccer. The only thing I can think of that connects more people around the world than soccer is music, and you know, it's a great way. You can go when I went to Costa Rica the first time. I wanted to play in these pickup games, and the first thing I would do is like learn how to say, you know, what's your name in Spanish, so I could learn the name of the guy to my left and to my
Yeah.
right and behind me in front of me. So I talked to him while we're playing. But I mean, that's all you need to know, and you don't even need to know that. You know, you just stand on the side until they pick you, and then go and play. And it's a great connector of people and societies. And as far as religion and politics, I've been connected and learned more about the world through the game of soccer than anywhere else.
Just crossing all over different cultures. It's really interesting. Now
Yeah.
we spoke about the general game. I want to know a little bit about development of the higher level. I don't know, and I want to kind of build up with a video if I can. So, are you familiar with Gary and Brian Kleben? They're out in Los Angeles. They run the, well. It's one of them is coach for the academies there, LA Galaxy and some of that.
Okay.
And they say at the higher level everything's choreographed. And when I started following their program, I, you know, any team I coach is just it's on a different level. You know, I used to only coach skill and let them play, and I when I first messing around and just coaching my kid, I didn't know anything about it. But I'm like, all right, well the teams get good. I want to learn to coach at a higher level. So I found these guys, and they had some online courses, and I really like them. But I want to show you something. What I mean about they say every sport is coordinated. Basketball, their plays are coordinated. You know, everything is coordinated. But soccer, it's kind of people think of it as a free for all. But when I saw this, it was right around the same time I was learning. I saw this video and I was like, that's when I'm like, okay, anything is possible for soccer. Let me just show you this. This is not soccer though. These are just normal kids from the town, from a small town. They come in audition. I look at that and I said, if they could be doing that stuff and it's very carefully choreographed, think of a futsal team or a soccer team that's that well organized. And I think of, I've seen your team of those girls back in the day. They were about there. I mean, they were just in position. Boom, 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 boom. And then we're talking about these other kids with like, you know, maybe hyperactive disorder where how do you get them on board with the choreography, you know, I mean, if positioning and things like that. So the question I have is, at the higher level, are you looking for random Maradona, or are you looking for that group, you know, seriously
So
organized? Yeah.
there's
Or
a
both. Yeah.
couple of points in that. First off,
Okay.
that you know, that coordination there is incredible, and I like that program. And they've had a couple of other large groups that do amazing things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, there's nobody trying to stop them. There's nobody trying to kick one person's leg out so the whole pyramid falls or whatever. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
working together. So, and that's practice, practice, practice. And a lot of those people are doing just like your play at the local school when your daughter is the main character or your son is a tree on the side, right? Some of those
Mm-hmm.
people weren't involved in the flips and the tosses. There's only a
Yeah.
couple. I don't want to say only a couple, but most of those people are extras for the super talented people in the middle, and
Got it.
probably two parents tossing their kid back and forth because nobody else would trust it.
I don't know. I couldn't trust.
Yeah, you wonder.
But but so it brings me back to what I started with hands-on soccer, and then I started hands-on um, HOSF, hands-on soccer. It was coach, no, hands-on soccer coaching books, and I made books for parents, and they weren't like I wrote a book. It was a compilation of stuff, and it was a breakdown of photos and images of how to teach kids the fundamentals. I never learned the fundamentals of soccer when I was a kid, but
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for engineering, and I was good at sports, all sports, and I and so I used my, just the other day, just Friday night, I took a circle and I was showing kids how when they reach to swing for a shot, to kick a ball with their toe pointed versus with their toe up in a pass, how your leg, the swing arm from your hip to the end of your toe becomes longer, and the velocity that your foot is moving at is
Mm-hmm.
faster than the velocity your knee is moving at. So the farther, that's why Tiger Woods' swing arm, was huge when he was having much more, um, club head speed when he swung. It's why field goal kickers in the NFL don't kick with their toe anymore. They extend their leg to make the swing arm longer, and they get more velocity with the same amount of effort. So yes, some of the kids don't grasp it, but they understand when you have two horses on a circle racing, one's in the middle and one's at the outside, and you race around the circle and you ask them which one's going to win or which one's going to lose. They all say the inside one. And then it turns out to be it's a tie because they're two fixed points, but the outside circle went four times farther. So that means it had to be going four times faster. And little things like that. Um, for me, the game is about coaching kids between 5 and 12 or 13 and about teaching the fundamentals, teaching
Okay.
them the basics so that they can learn the correct way as soon as they possibly can. Then they can improve. I get the kids for 2 to 3 hours a week. If you want to be good at anything, you can look at that talent code or that other outliers, 10,000 hours to become
Yeah.
an expert in
Yeah.
things, right? I'm not going to make any great kid out of any player that I have if the only time they have the ball at their feet is when they come to me once or twice a week.
Yeah. No.
So, you look at the
And even
choreographer.
$10,000 doesn't guarantee success.
No, no, it doesn't. It gives you a great chance. And you talk
Mm-hmm.
to almost all these kids that are great at their sports, especially, figure skating or any of these individual sports. They do put all that swimmers, they put all that time in the pool or on the ice or on the parallel bars, whatever you want to. But then you have game time. And in basketball has become more of street basketball than it was back in the 60s and 70s and even the 80s, right? That you have individual stars that dominate the game much more so than I think the San Antonio Spurs um, had, for me, the best, not only the most international team for a decade, but they had a bunch of players who all filled really, I don't want to say defined roles, but they all had their roles and played more of a team game. Whereas a lot of this stuff is individuals. And now I don't really enjoy watching basketball so much. Football, if you look at Mahomes and Kelsey, right there, everybody knows that he's going to Kelsey when he comes in, but how come he can still be successful when you have the best teams in the country trying to stop them? Kelsey never gives up on a play, and Mahomes will look to two or three other guys, and Kelsey just keeps finding, they have this connection, which is one of the things I was thinking about when you asked me the question. And then when I look back at what I mentioned earlier, lifting your head up, one of the things in sports, and especially futsal, is eye contact. And if you play at any kind of a high level where there's noise or whatever, if you look at your teammate, you can sense when they need you, when they don't need you, what to do, when to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And eye contact, it's communication, nonverbal communication, which both are very important in sports. But anyway, I don't know that. Put it this way: I call a timeout, and I'm like, futsal. I call there's a timeout, one each half.
Mm-hmm.
I call it almost every half, but I call a timeout, and I can set up a whole play. And if their defenders stand in the wrong place or in the
Mm-hmm.
right place for them and the wrong place for me,
It's
that whole
going
play
in.
is shot.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
they have to improvise. They have to adjust. And um, soccer is beautiful in that way because there's adjustments going on throughout the entire game while the game is going on. I listened to Joe Rogan yesterday, and he was asking the one guest, he's like, can you imagine going on a soccer field playing in this without, and not looking like a complete idiot because they're, MMA fighters or boxers or whatever. But
Hmm.
the game is constantly, it's constantly shifting and changing. And anyway, it's
But it
it's
is.
a
But it,
beautiful
you've
game.
yeah, it is. It's football. Football is too. It's amazing over the years where I've met people who didn't like soccer gravitated toward futsal because it's kind of different enough, unique enough that it's interesting. People, baseball players, and that, and I've just seen that over the years. But you, at a very higher level, like you've taken teams to nationals every year and win often. How many nationals have you won, if I may,
Um,
with the
well,
young kids?
honestly, in the last few years, we haven't had as many, but when it
Okay.
first started out, we did quite well. I don't know, a dozen or something like that, 15 maybe.
Now, does
Um,
this when you got your team good? Now, when you got your team and you got the right kids and they know all the basics, you're working on strategy, right? I mean, you're all about positioning
Absolutely,
it.
and that's
Okay, so I just want to be
that's
sure that
so that's the,
that's yeah. Hmm.
no, that's the beautiful part about it, right?
Hmm.
But futsal has four players on the court and a
Hmm.
goalie. If and it's I've just shared this with I have a group of 11-year-old girls that I want to take I'm taking to Argentina in March, and I
Hmm.
would love at 60 years old, I'd love to have one more run where I can keep a team together for 5 years, because you have to remember all these kids play for different soccer clubs.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
right.
have a soccer program, so I have them for 16 weeks from mid-November to mid-March, 1 day a week during the winter for practice, and then they play a game each weekend. That's all I have them for, and you can't do it in 1 year. You can't just teach them. It's a different
No,
skill set. It's a
right.
different, but when you get them together and you can keep them together for a little bit, it's absolutely phenomenal, because you know what my program is based on. It's based on the fundamentals, and as soon as they learn the fundamentals, it's doing simple things, but every single thing you do looks the same, but it's five options.
Yeah, that's
So
good. I
so
understand.
it looks like this, but as soon as the defender catches onto that, it looks the same, but you're doing something else. And you have 3 to 5 options of doing it. And then you have kids that have the aptitude, they have the ability already, they have the aptitude to make their own decisions. That's when you turn kids from robots into players. When you're not, joystick coaching them from the sideline, yelling the whole time. They're making
Hmm.
the proper decisions on their own. And if you wait till they're 14 or 15 years old, it's too late. That has to
Hmm.
happen when they're young. um, but it's
You
awesome to
being the
see.
one exception,
Well, well,
since you started
well,
at 14.
again, you have to remember I was a goalie. I just had to. This is where, and you mentioned something about the attention deficit. You
Hmm.
know, part of attention deficit disorder is the ability to hyper focus,
Yeah.
and
It's interesting.
or not even necessarily the ability, but the tendency to hyper focus. And I was made aware of that by because I was driving my wife nuts when I retired and I was home instead of at practice every day. And she was like, "You got to go see somebody. You're driving me crazy." And every minute I got a different idea and I was acting on something different. And the guy said, "Listen, and you had the perfect job." He says, you had one single focus of stopping the ball from going in the goal. And you
Yeah.
developed your own
Wow.
style. I didn't have any technique and whatever. And that's a big part of the game. When you have a bunch of different roles to play, um, it's harder. But as a goalkeeper, it was it was perfect for me. So, that's
Michael Phelps, the greatest Olympian. He had hyper what is it called?
yeah. What's he got to do?
Yeah.
Swim fast to that
It's
end and swim
focus,
fast to that
focus,
end. So,
focus. Nothing more focused than swimming either, So
Hmm.
yeah,
right.
but he somehow
Yeah.
conquered that,
Yeah.
and it's used it to his
I
advantage.
wish I could remember this woman's name who I just watched the movie on Netflix the other night. Talk about perseverance. You can check it out. It begins
Listen,
with an E, I believe. But it's she made the swim from Cuba to Miami. She was the one of the
whoa,
first women, or if not the first woman, to swim the English Channel. And she tried it at 28 years old and failed. And then she tried it at 60 years old and failed. and then she tried it at 61 and failed, and 61 later that year and failed, and did it at 62 years old. You got to watch it if you want to talk about
yeah, that's cool. What's the name? You don't remember?
unbelievable movie. I'll look it up while we're talking here on my phone. But just a phenomenal film, and you want to talk about perseverance, and you think you might have some. This lady got stung by Portuguese men of war and had to quit. You know, she was 50 miles from shore, and she got stung. The sharks. Um, it was really quite incredible. Like, you wouldn't even think it could.
Maybe she had hyperactive disorder.
No,
I don't know.
I gotta take on the sharks.
She had some determination going on at age 62.
I know, that's impressive. That's
That is
impressive.
very impressive.
Hey, if you like these kind of conversations and you'd like to see more, click like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're at the computer and you'd like to hear the whole podcast, click right here.